Far from the center of Alpha and Beta Quadrant politics, the mysterious Breen species hailed from a planet of the same name, developing a technologically advanced warrior culture that greatly expanded their territory. Reclusive and hostile, most of their neighbors had little knowledge about them, with even official intelligence reports containing false information. Always seen wearing refrigeration suits, many have speculated their homeworld and natural environment must be a frozen wasteland, thus they required suits when traveling outside their planet. This would also explain their specialization in refrigeration technology. Yet according to Wei Yun, a high-level official of the Dominion and ally to the Breen, the temperature on their world was actually quite comfortable, deepening the mystery behind the reason for their suits. Refusing to reveal themselves even to their allies, some have theorized that perhaps the Breen were not humanoid or even a single species, and may in fact be several species that evolved together and chose to create a uniform appearance when dealing with outsiders, thereby avoiding discrimination or attempts to divide their unity. As no one seemed to know what they looked like, the common belief was that no one ever saw the face of a Breen, yet there have been individuals killed in battle whose suits were then removed, leading to yet another theory that their physical bodies disintegrated upon death or the unauthorized removal of their suit. A physically strong, resilient species, the Breen had no blood or liquid circulatory system. Their thoughts and emotions could not be detected by empaths, and they endured pregnancy at a young age, teaching and entertaining their children with intricate nursery rhymes. Cunning, ruthless, and aggressive, the Breen had little respect for the borders of other states, allowing their privateers to raid the ships and colonies of neighboring powers, taking their goods and enslaving their people. Fed a diet of algae paste, these slaves were sent to work in brutal mines and labor camps. Fiercely territorial, they did not tolerate violations of their space, and so during the Klingon Second Empire, when Chancellor Mokwa sent a fleet of warships to conquer the Breen homeworld, the expedition was never heard from again. It is possible their people also had some sort of conflict with the Romulans, as the two species seem to share animosity, with the Breen specifically seeking the conquest of Romulus during the Dominion War, while the Romulans had a saying, "Never turn your back on a Breen." By the 24th century, their people were governed by the Breen Confederacy, a large, isolationist government with highly sophisticated technology that included organic ships and cloaking devices, wielding Type 3 disruptors and handheld cannons, able to mobilize a large military fleet in a short amount of time. In addition to developing trade relations with the Ferengi, they supplied cold storage units to the Maquis during their rebellion against the Kardassian Union, while maintaining limited diplomatic relations with other Alpha and Beta Quadrant powers, allowing one of their reputable pilots to participate in an interspecies paleo held at the Federation outpost Deep Space 3. For much of the 24th century, the only contact most ever had with the Breen involved small-scale combat to defend against raids from privateers, but everything changed in 2369 when the Federation discovered a wormhole near Bajor that allowed near-instant travel to the Gamma Quadrant 70,000 light-years away. As the Federation and others started exploring this new region of space, the presiding Gamma Quadrant superpower known as the Dominion felt threatened by their arrival, and so launched a massive invasion of the Alpha and Beta Quadrants as a preemptive strike. Ruled by a species of highly advanced changeling shapeshifters, the Dominion spent the next few years engaging in a campaign of subterfuge to weaken and divide their enemy before finally entering the Alpha Quadrant with their fleet in 2373. In order to avoid an immediate conflict, the Dominion revealed they arrived at the invitation of their new allies, the Kardassian Union, after negotiating a deal with their infamous leader Gul Dukat. Unwilling to allow more Dominion ships into the Alpha Quadrant, the war officially began when the Federation tried to mine the entrance to the wormhole, prompting a military response. For 2 years, they fought, seeing the momentum shift back and forth, thanks in part to the Romulan Star Empire joining the Federation alliance. The war had largely ground to a stalemate until the Founders revealed the Breen Confederacy as their newest allies. From the very beginning of the war, the Dominion Founders were well aware it might turn into a long-term struggle, and so made contingency plans designed to pay off years down the line. According to the official record, the Founders spoke to the Breen representative Thought Gore for several months before forging their alliance. However, the plan might have actually started years earlier, as a common tactic for the Dominion was to send changeling infiltrators to secretly push forward their agenda. As a result, there was a prison where the Dominion held important captives from various species who were replaced with a Founder. One of these prisoners was a Breen who died during an escape attempt, killing 2 Jem'Hadar guards before passing. His presence meant the Dominion may have sent an infiltrator early on to influence the Breen Confederacy, laying the political groundwork for their eventual alliance. And so, in 2375, Thought-Gor traveled to Kardassian space, where they signed a treaty of alliance, even capturing a pair of Starfleet officers while en route, presenting them as a gift upon arrival. Ever the aggressors, even in negotiations, the Breen were willing to follow the orders of the Dominion, but in exchange demanded a high price, initially annexing a number of Cardassian systems, then later expanding their requirements further by seeking control of Earth and Romulus once the war was won. Ready to demonstrate their ferocity and commitment, the Breen began with a direct attack against Earth, capital of the Federation, specifically targeting Starfleet headquarters. Although most of their ships were lost in the attack, the Breen did not fear death, with Thought-Gor remarking it was a small price to pay for such a great victory. The Breen then led the Dominion to another victory in the Second Battle of Chintaka, using their advanced energy-dampening weapons to drain enemy ships, making them easy to destroy. Although many Alliance ships were lost, including the famous USS Defiant, a single Klingon ship survived, thanks to an engineer who made an adjustment to their warp core to deal with a containment problem, which then had the unexpected secondary effect of making them immune to the Breen weapon. Desperate to stave off total defeat, General Martok ordered the entire Klingon fleet to make a similar adjustment, so they might single-handedly hold the front lines while their allies upgraded their ships to compensate for this new technology. Even so, the Dominion now had a distinct advantage, and might have pressed forward toward victory, if not for the unexpected rebellion of Legate Damar, who succeeded Gul Dukat as leader of the Cardassian Union. Damar was furious with the generous terms given to the Breen, while Cardassian interests were ignored, even losing territory in the negotiations. Launching several successful strikes against the Dominion, most of the rebellion was eventually betrayed and destroyed, but even so, these events succeeded in distracting the enemy long enough for the Federation Alliance to rearm their ships for battle. Having lost their momentum and advantage, the Dominion made a strategic retreat back into Cardassian space, returning the galaxy to pre-war borders, thereby shortening their supply lines while extending those of the Federation Alliance, and giving them a smaller area to keep secure while they rebuilt their army and fleet. Understanding that a prolonged stalemate would benefit the Dominion, the Federation, Klingons, and Romulans made a final push into Cardassian space, seeking to end the war once and for all. Again, circumstances conspired against the Dominion, as their forces, led by the Breen, stood a good chance of winning the Battle of Kardassia, were it not for Legate Damar, who continued his rebellion on their homeworld, rallying the citizens of Kardassia to openly defy their oppressors. Viewing this rebellion as terrorism, the Dominion enacted extreme collective punishment, killing 2 million Cardassian citizens in the bombing of Lakarian City. Rather than terrify the Cardassians into submission, it only further stirred them to anger, resulting in riots in the streets, as well as the Cardassian fleet turning against the Dominion as they fought the Battle of Kardassia. The unexpected mutiny caused chaos among the Dominion, forcing their withdrawal to Kardassia Prime for a last stand. Fearless warriors to the end, Thought Pran, the Breen representative who replaced Thought-Gor as commander in the field, insisted that he and his men should go fight on the front lines. With most of their defenders sent elsewhere, Dominion headquarters was left vulnerable, allowing Damar's rebels to take the building and capture the female founder leading Dominion forces. Thanks to Odo, a changeling who sided with the Federation, they ultimately avoided a final bloody confrontation over Kardassia Prime and negotiated an agreement that reinstated pre-war borders and sent the Dominion back to the Gamma Quadrant. Although the Breen were willing to die for victory, in the end, they accepted the terms of defeat and were even present for the formal end to the war when they signed the Treaty of Bajor. A special thanks to all those who contribute to CivilizationEx, like Tamika the Black Wolf, Faith the Wandering Huntress, Tom Moonstruck Waters, and Sir Joe Wartfoot of the North. If you'd like to help the channel, be sure to give a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and click on the links below, or else go to patreon.com/CivilizationEx, where you can gain early access to videos, vote on future content, and watch the Patreon-only series, Heroes of Lore and Legend.